Good morning, it's Sunday on Mars and it's time for the weekly review of the weather and the forecast for the coming week. This edition of Sunday on Mars is brought to you by Mobius Transmetals. As I predicted last week, dust clouds and haze continued along the seasonal south polar ice cap edge of Mars. Unexpected rapidly developing dust storms were observed but quickly subsiding. In the southern tropics, afternoon water ice clouds were observed above Argemons from moisture heading north from the melting south polar ice. High-altitude mesospheric cloud streaks were nearly a daily occurrence south of Eos Chasma in Val Marineris. This was due to the slower solar wind speed, less density and increased ultraviolet irradiation of subsurface water ice melt lifted into the upper atmosphere. Storm-free conditions persisted for both rover sites, Endeavour Crater and Gale Crater all week. Still no news from Opportunity. The lack of solar particles in general from no sunspot activity has increased the likelihood of cosmic ray flux requiring close monitoring during personnel transfer using the jaunt portals. The planetary proximity of Earth and Mars at this time reduces risk of jaunts, and there is a scheduled jaunt from the lunar far side star metal mining operations at Mobius Transmetals Moon Base 2, the Mars Weather Station. Let's look at the integrated space weather analysis data to predict the upcoming week in weather on Mars. Here at the Mars Weather Forecast Center we can view the analytical data to predict the effects of solar wind on the Martian weather. The solar particle density and velocity waves of charged particles interact directly with the weak magnetic subsurface anomalies in the Mars' thin atmosphere to create weather on Mars. The LASCO Wide Field and Solar Flare Monitor indicates that the Sun has no sunspots or significant flares at this time and the Sun is quiet currently. Only small coronal holes are evident at the solar equator, but there is a large polar coronal hole at the North Solar Pole. This is of some concern as the coronal magnetic field chart shows the strength of the coronal output at the solar pole, and it is also a Mars magnetic connection line that can affect jaunt stream integrity. The solar tomographic solar wind velocity chart shows that the last coronal particle stream has passed Mars. The tomographic wind density chart indicates the interplanetary atmosphere is largely void of solar particles, increasing the risk of cosmic ray radiation at the Martian surface. Now let's look at the Enlil at Mars data and how it will affect Martian weather next week. Solar wind density will increase from 2 protons per cubic centimeter to 6 at the end of the week. This is seen as the approaching green sweeping wave of particles in the solar wind density chart. However, solar wind velocity will decrease from 480 to 380 km per second from early to mid-week. This will result in increasing proton interactions and an enlarged induced exchange ion field on the Sun side of Mars. This is seen as the green wave passing and a blue region of decreased velocity during the increase in density in the solar wind velocity chart. Solar wind temperature will increase from 15,000 to 30,000 Kelvin during the week, and dynamic pressure will remain low until the following week, remaining at 3 to 5 nanopascals. This is an excellent time to jaunt, and the jaunt portal initiation is occurring at this time. Mars portal activating and receiving. Incoming jaunt in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have just received Commander August Dunning at the Mars Weather Station jaunt portal. He will be coming out of sedated sleep momentarily. While he awakened from the jaunt, let's look at next week's weather. Based on the evidence, we can predict that a pile-up boundary of charged exchange particles will occur at the end of the next week, reaching 280 km from the surface. This will allow significant induction of solar radiation and associated subsurface ice sublimation in the first half of the week and will lift moisture into the mesosphere. Next week we'll see mostly normal condition for this time of year on Mars. During the first part of the week, dust storms will increase in the Hellas Basin and move northward to the tropics, causing daily high clouds over Val Marineris. The Noctis Labyrinth will be filled with carbon dioxide fog every morning this week. The increasing moisture lifted from subsurface water ice will cause plumes around all the calderas of the shield volcanoes from mid-week into the weekend. At mid to late week, strong dust devils will evolve from the Argemons caldera and cause strong plumes in the later afternoon that may be lost to space from the increased solar wind velocity at the end of the week. The transport of all this moisture will cause more water ice and carbon dioxide ice accumulation at the northern pole, now in perpetual night for another 5 months. The weather will be stable with only slight late morning fog at the rover sites at Endeavour Crater and Gale Crater all next week. Now let's check in on August to see how he is doing. August, can you hear me?
Fuck me.
It's time to wake up.
Yeah. Oh.
How are you feeling?
Oh, God, I hate jaunting.
As expected.
Yeah.
Welcome to Mars, Commander. He will be just fine. It's currently noon at the Mars Weather Center. The outside temperature is 58 degrees with a predicted nighttime low of -107. This has been the weekly weather report and forecast for the 21st of October 2018. We will see you next week on Sunday morning on Mars. I am Cell 9000 at the Mars Weather Center, wishing you a very productive week ahead. Cheers.